Hi, I just wanted to talk a little bit about PCOS and genetics. So, there was a recent study that said that about half of women with PCOS have a rare gene that may be the cause of their issues because it causes changes in their hormones. And often when we go to the doctor, we're told, oh, it's genetic, and that infers that there's nothing that you can actually do. Hi, Bianca. And the truth is that it's genes do different things. So they switch on or they switch off according to what's going on in our environment, internal and external. So it's the reason why when you drink too much and you end up with a headache. Whereas if you don't drink at all, then you don't get a headache. So different functions in our body are caused by our genes. So we have a cell. And inside the cell, we have a nucleus. And inside that, we have our genetic material. And they're actually, let me go over. In this group and also on my website, you can get a copy of my book, Conquer Your PCOS Naturally, as a gift, because I really want this information to get out. So when we have something called, so the mainstream has focused on something called the central dogma. And the central dogma says that genes cause disease. End of story. And the problem with that is the only way to theoretically treat a gene is to use drugs or to cut an area out. So drugs or surgery, which is what has been used in the mainstream for many, many years. It's why when women go to see a doctor about PCOS, they're not usually advised about dietary changes and lifestyle changes. They're advised that they need medications and that sometimes they need surgery. So if I skip down, I won't go into too much details about what genes are, what chromosomes are, where they come from. You can read that in the book and I'll put the links in where you can get that for free. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how genes actually work. So from page 33, an individual's genetic makeup is called their genotype. The characteristics of the gene that the genes code for, like our eye colour and how curly our hair is, are called the phenotype. And each gene provides the code for a particular protein, which allows the performance of a specific function. So if we cut ourselves, we produce clotting agents and we can heal that wound, assuming that we're healthy. When we don't have a wound, we don't need those clotting factors to be as active, so they're not. So it's like flicking a switch in a way. Now, some genes code for structural characteristics that enable cells to differentiate into muscles or skin or bone in one place and heart or brain in a gut in another, for example. Other genes help us sustain life by coding for hormones like insulin or the important blood factors that I just talked about. We carry thousands of genes, but these genes aren't always switched on. So they turn on and they turn off when we need a particular protein. The structure in our DNA, which determines the expression of our genes, are called regulatory sequences. So these sequences do not code for the production of the protein, they regulate their expression. They turn on and off the genes as we need them. These sequences are like switches that determine whether the code on a gene will be made available to the gene's gene transcription apparatus or not. So whether the genetic page will in essence be open to be read. Now the important part is that genes are just the set of instructions. For a gene to produce the protein it is coded for, it needs an order. These orders come from various sources, mostly our lifestyle and the environment that we live in. So this is where epigenetics comes into play. This is why you are in control of your health and of your PCOS rather than being a victim to your genes. So let me scan through a little bit. I talk about the central dogma because I think it's really important that you understand where the advice that you get in the mainstream is actually coming from so that you can make informed decisions that are right for you. Epigenetics means above genetics. It is the study of what causes a gene to be turned on or to be turned off. these changes do not change the structure of the gene, but they significantly change the way these genes are expressed or not. Epigenetic factors like lifestyle, diet, environmental factors like the air we breathe, the water we drink, stress especially. I'll do another video, but stress has the same underlying changes as PCOS. It's remarkable when you actually look at it. Smoking, if you smoke, please stop, and so on, can affect the way that our genes behave for the better or for the worse. So changes in the gene expression due to epigenetic factors, goodness me, are reversible and sometimes stable. So when we look, there was a study done that looked at the liver in women with PCOS who were pregnant, and when you actually have an insulin-resistant state, which pregnancy is a naturally insulin-resistant state anyway because that promotes growth, but in PCOS, that can actually change the baby's liver function. So that's one of the reasons why I talk about preconception care and being as healthy as you can through pregnancy, because it makes a really, really big difference. And then these epigenetic changes can be passed on to the child. But that's for another video. One of the main thing I wanted to talk about is that being aware of epigenetics and how it impacts on PCOS puts you in the driver's seat. So when you eat sugar, you have more glucose in your blood. So your body needs to produce more insulin so that you can get that sticky, dangerous sugar out of your blood and into the relative safety of your cells. So if you don't eat a lot of sugar, then you don't trigger that response. That's one of the reasons why many women with PCOS find having a low carb, I won't say no carb because that's, in my opinion, quite dangerous, but have a lower carb food plan, because as they don't have the sugar, they don't trigger those changes. And when you have lower insulin, that has positive effects for your period, for weight gain, for how your body and your hormones function. So for years and years and years, they've said that PCOS isn't curable. And I think that we probably are on more of a spectrum. So yes, we do likely have a genetic disposition to developing the changes that result in PCOS. But if we make the right lifestyle choices, then we're in control. So it can be PCOS is quite complex, so it can be quite difficult to work out what those things are for you. But across the board for most people, most women, having a lower carb food plan really helps. Focusing on gut health, so lots and lots of fiber and fresh vegetables and some fruit, and avoiding junk food, sugar, things like this actually change how our gut microbiome functions. It changes the types of bugs that thrive and the types of bugs that die. So when you focus on your gut, you can change your mood, you can change insulin sensitivity, and every woman I see pretty much with PCOS has some level of gut issues, so gut's really healthy. When we talk about stress, I know I said I won't touch on it, but I'll talk a little bit about it. Some of the changes that you get a drop in sex hormone binding globule, and that's the thing that grabs, say you've got an active hormone, but you don't need it. So you have this globule come along and it basically gives it a really big hug, so it can actually have effects throughout your body. You get an increase then in your free testosterone and your free estrogen. Women are often, with PCOS, are often thought of as estrogen dominant. And we know that testosterone is really, really, really important in PCOS period, but also in affecting our fertility and our cycle and causing acne. I used to have terrible skin and excessive hair growth, facial hair and body hair. I used to have, oh God, it was so embarrassing, a ridiculous amount of hair. I'll talk about this in another video, but I was studying to be a chiropractor, and to be able to assess and learn about the body, we had to be down to our underwear. So I would spend an inordinate amount of time in the bathroom trying to wax off any hair that might be visible. and it was incredibly painful and took such a lot of time, and I felt so self-conscious. And changing your hair growth takes a really, really long time, but it is possible. So when you actually take the lifestyle changes, make the lifestyle changes that have been shown to help with PCOS, you can over time reduce your symptoms and even eliminate a lot of them. So when we talk about curing, like I said, it's like a spectrum. So we're always going to need to be careful of our lifestyles and the choices that we make. But you can get to a place where you have a regular cycle, you are ovulating, you don't have high levels of testosterone, you no longer have polycystic ovaries, and so you actually don't fit the diagnosis anymore. Is that a cure? Well, that's up for debate. Is that wonderful? Oh yeah, it's wonderful. So yes, we have genes, and yes, these can be triggered, but our lifestyle, the epigenetic input we put into our genes can change our lives, our health, our well-being, our ability to have a child, our longevity, our mood, everything. So I just wanted to do this video so you know that you are in control. Your genes aren't in control. Whenever someone blames genes in a way that disempowers you, know that that's not the full story, and that making the right choices for you can profoundly change your life and your health. Anyway, I hope that helps. If you've got any questions, just leave me a message and I'll get back to you when I'm able. And have a lovely night. Bye.